So we're going to talk about Tulsi Gabbard, and we're going to be critical of Tulsi. I know this is unfathomable to many of you diehard Tulsi fans, but I'm asking you to listen with an open mind. I'm asking you to undo the reflexive downvote you've already given this video, and just watch to the end before you slap a downvote on my ass, you know? I know I'm asking a lot because this video is long, but I think that by the end of it, you're going to feel like I've been exceedingly fair and not nearly so abrasive as you might have thought. But first, I want to tell you all about my sponsor. Two brothers who are longtime fans of mine have created a full-fledged tabletop fantasy card game that looks fucking awesome. It's called War Rift, and it really brings a lot of fresh mechanics to the genre. They got a special deal going on right now on their Kickstarter page where you can get one entire game of War Rift with all unlocked stretch goals at a remarkably low price. Right now, their project has over 100 backers and is less than $2,000 away from its goal. So if you're a fan of deck building games or of the fantasy genre, or you're just curious about the game, please consider supporting this project. There's not a lot of time left, so check out the links below and join the fucking war. The first link is to their Kickstarter. That's for if you've already made up your mind to support them. The other link is to their website. That's if your curiosity is piqued, but you're not exactly sure yet. You want to know more about the project. I can tell you right now, you'll definitely be impressed by what you find there, and I want to thank War Rift for supporting this channel. Honestly, I feel kind of bad for my sponsors because I know this isn't going to be a popular video. This is going to be one that pisses a lot of people off, even if I try to not make it that, even if I try to be real nice. So I recently stated on Twitter that I'm none too keen on this Tulsi Gabbard character everyone's been salivating over lately. Got a huge backlash. I got called ugly, you know, I got the banana card played a few times. I got called an incel, weird. I got called a DNC stooge, all right. I got called a communist, what? I got some dude that was like saying like, you support Bernie and Bernie's a communist. Meanwhile, Tulsi Gabbard, who he's defending, has pretty much all the same policies as Bernie, so how does she avoid being a communist? Anyway, because I'm an idiot, I'm gonna double down, of course. I want more barely comprehensible people shouting invectives at me, because without the hatred of idiots, what truly do I have to fuel me through yet another dark and lonely day? So what's wrong with Tulsi Gabbard? Here's my list, which I'm arranging from least important to most important, according to, me. 1, some people only like her because she's hot. Now, on Twitter, I was being an asshole. Shocking, I know. And I said something like, Tulsi should get into porn because 90% of her supporters just want to plow her. Now, this is what got the YouTuber Nico House mad at me. This is what got Shoe on Head mad. This is what got Chris Raygun mad. I don't know. All kinds of people got mad. I got called a misogynist. I got called ugly. Both of which are fair criticisms. I mean, you know, I'm an ugly misogynist. It's true. I can live with that, but dude, come on. Come on! There's lots of boned up dudes out there that really do only support Tulsi because they daydream of turning her name backwards and unlocking Tulsi's alter ego, I Slut. Which, yes, that would be a way better movie than I, Robot, but that's neither here nor there nor anywhere. Now, I'm not sure how significant this portion of Tulsi's supporters are. Well, I didn't used to be sure. I'm sure now, because I did this ultra-scientific Twitter poll that has been peer-reviewed by several notable scholarly journals, by the way. And these are the results. And as you can see, my original 90% figure was a slight exaggeration. It's actually only 52% that support her because they want to bump uglies with her, you know? And hey, look, all joking and bullshit aside, I know why this sort of comparison leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. Because it seems like by even engaging in this sort of conversation, we're reducing an accomplished woman to nothing more than a sex object. Well, the reality from my perspective is that sex objects is all any of us actually are, and the rest is just pretense. But whatever, you don't want to hear my nihilism, so let me approach it from a different angle. The real deal is that there's a reason we've elected more handsome presidents than ugly ones. Attractiveness, whether you're male or female or whatever you want to call yourself, is a factor in these elections, no matter how much we intellectually realize that it shouldn't be. I think it's just realistic to assume that some people are drawn to Tulsi because she's a very lovely woman. And let's be real, it's probably one of the big reasons why she was one of the most searched candidates the night of the first debate. So, 2, Tulsi Gabbard used to be homophobic. Okay, yeah, used to be. I know. But TJ, can't people change? Do you not believe that people cannot change? Yeah, okay, absolutely. I do believe people can change. I think that we should celebrate Tulsi's change. For those who don't know, Tulsi's father was involved in the pseudoscience of gay conversion therapy, where people try to essentially, pray the gay away. And it's a horrible thing that scrambled a lot of people's brains up like eggs. Tulsi herself said some things that are a bit disconcerting if you're an LGBT motherfucker. And I know, boo-hoo. But if you were gay or trans or something, you probably wouldn't vote for someone who said something like, to try to act as if there is a difference between civil unions and same-sex marriage is dishonest, cowardly, and extremely disrespectful to the people of Hawaii. As Democrats, we should be representing the views of the people, not a small number of homosexual extremists. So Tulsi's not only coming out against gay marriage there, but civil unions too. She's like, civil unions are just as bad. It's just the same shit with a different word. And I mean, gay people wanting to get married is not extremism, in my opinion. In order for you to think that position is extreme, you'd have to disagree extremely. So Tulsi was not just your garden variety, gays are icky sort of homophobe. She was like into homophobia. Like, homophobia was kind of her jam. And I say was her jam because she's not anymore. She's changed. Now she says that the things she said in her past, that shit was regrettable. Her voting records on gay issues has been good. Not just good, really, but great. There's not much of a reason to doubt her sincerity. So why do I even bring it up at all? Well, because not much of a reason to doubt her sincerity is not the same thing as no reason to doubt her sincerity, because the time she changed her mind was right around the time polling on this issue of LGBT people began to shift. It's pretty much unheard of to be a Democrat, let alone a progressive at this point, without supporting LGBT people. So part of me does wonder, was this change in character a genuine one stemming from soul-searching and life experience, or was it a calculated political maneuver designed to ensure her political future? You always have to wonder such things about politicians, of course, but in the case of this election, there's a candidate named Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders was standing up for gay people as early back as 1972 when no one did that. I mean, if you're a person who really finds LGBT rights to be an important issue, and it is to millions of people, then who are you going to give the win on this issue? The guy who not only fought, but fought vociferously for LGBT rights for nearly 50 years? Or the woman who used to hate gay people with a passion, but then suddenly didn't anymore, right around the time gay rights became popular among the Democrat tribe, of which she is a member? You know what's interesting? I made this same argument back in, 2015, 2016 about Hillary Clinton. You know how many people gave me shit for it then? Not zero, but not too many. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to criticize this argument this time around. I think they should seriously examine their reasons for doing so. 3. Tulsi is not the anti-war candidate that she claims to be. Now, I know the whataboutism people will jump on this. Neither is Bernie. Let me save you the trouble. You're right. Both Bernie and Tulsi are wrong on this issue. They both want to get us out of endless wars, and that's a good thing. They both want to stop regime changes and military occupations, and that's a good thing. But neither of them is willing to say the obvious truth that I've heard dozens of people say in dozens of conversations, that we don't need to be in the Middle East at all, or South America for that matter. We're there for the oil and the minerals and the government contracts because we're scared that if we don't get it all, then Russia or China will get it. I've talked in the past about the problematic nature of the Islamic faith, and I stand by those words. But Islamic doctrine isn't the only destabilizing influence in the Middle East. The fact that the world's 3 superpowers are actively pouring money and weapons into the region obviously isn't helping. Is it even the slightest wonder to any of us anymore that the people of the Middle East don't really like us? Would you like the people who use your countries as a geopolitical chessboard where you and everyone you know are the pawns? No, you wouldn't like that. And if you happened to belong to a religion that had given you all kinds of neat little concepts like infidel and unbeliever, and you can point to the 5th verse of the 9th surah which tells you to kill pagans wherever you find them, well, it's obvious what's going to happen, right? It's obvious because it's not hypothetical. It's happened over and over again. Now, I'm not here to argue different interpretations of the Quran. The verse in question can be defended and justified and excused, just as the verses in the Bible condoning slavery and cruelty and so on are defended and justified and excused. The fact is, there is no correct interpretation of so-called holy books, and you can always bend them to the needs of the moment. The only point I'm making here is that Islam can be interpreted violently, and it often is by people who already have cause to want violence. Now, Tulsi Gabbard wants to continue the war on terror. She says that when it comes to hunting down terrorists, she, in her own words, is a hawk. The definition of hawk in politics is a person who advocates for extreme aggression over peace or diplomacy. Now, she says she's the opposite. She's a dove when it comes to regime change wars and occupation. She's gone on to say that she favors quick surgical strikes, limited usage of drones, you know? She told The Intercept in 2018, with these terror cells, for example, yes, I still believe that the right approach to take is these quick strike forces, surgical strikes, in and out, very quickly, no long-term deployment, no long-term occupation, to get rid of the threat that exists and then get out, and the very limited use of drones in those situations where our military is not able to get in without creating an unacceptable level of risk. Now, that's arguably a better policy than we have now. I would say it is. But I think I'd be more comfortable with the ideas that she was putting forth there if there wasn't research showing that 90% of those killed in our drone strikes were not our intended targets. Because war is rarely a surgical procedure, it turns out. For a candidate who has framed herself first and foremost as the anti-war candidate, she doesn't seem that anti-war. She seems like she favors a more efficient, less expensive waging of those wars. You know, instead of America setting up shop in your country and installing a puppet dictator, we just send robots over to bomb anyone we don't like. Much cheaper and more efficient, sure. It's probably even a better foreign policy, but it's not an anti-war policy. It sounds like we're still going to be on a wild goose chase with the concept, and that's what it is, a concept of terrorism, which will never be eradicated. So it's actually just a new form of perpetual war, where we don't have to risk as much, where we don't have to spend as much, at least not on the war itself. But we won't really stop meddling in the affairs of the globe and acting like the world police. We'll just be doing it with more deadly precision and less nation building. Tulsi is essentially saying, we're not good at rebuilding what we destroy, so let's just skip that part. Let's just destroy the shit that pisses us off and leave someone else to figure out what to do with the smoldering rubble. All right, I'm getting a bit hyperbolic, I admit that. And remember, like I said at the beginning, Bernie isn't too much better on this. His rhetoric is somewhat similar. Now, he's probably never called himself a hawk, but that's sort of a superficial distinction at this point. Like it or not, this position of limited drone strikes, and, you know, we're not going to stay there, but we're going to go there if we need to, you know, that's what passes for anti-war among American politicians. So personally, what I'd like to see a candidate say unflinchingly is that they believe in the ideal of peace. I know that this is going to be getting made fun of because it comes from a cheesy TV show, but I think we should institute something similar to the Prime Directive from Star Trek. If another society wants our help, we give it to whatever extent is appropriate. If they tell us to fuck off and they tell us they don't want to be friends, let's leave them alone. It's such a simple and beautiful idea. Yet I feel the resistance, even just recording this. In this country of perpetual war, the very notion of peace seems like some sort of naive pipe dream. But I assure you it's not. America could actually be a peaceful nation on the global stage. The only thing making it impossible is people who think it's impossible. And that's why not even one major candidate represents that point of view. And whether you agree with that point of view or not, I think it deserves representation. I think that if we're going to have candidates that support perpetual war, we should have candidates that support peace. So quickly, let me make it clear about my belief about the military. I think it has a valid function. I'm not a total pacifist. I think it should be used defensively for the protection of our country. The same way you might use a weapon to defend yourself from an attack or a home invasion. There's a big difference, though, between prowling the streets like a vigilante, looking for criminals to beat up, and defending yourself from a criminal's attack. The same difference can be applied at the macro level when we look at nations. 4, Tulsi Gabbard's supporters seem to have an almost cultish devotion to her and are willing to look the other way or go into hyper-defensive mode as soon as she's attacked or criticized. Now, many politicians inspire this cult of personality response. But, for instance, I support Bernie Sanders, yet I can criticize him. I just did on foreign policy. I also criticize his unwillingness to attack the DNC as robustly as he should have, and his endorsement, his disgusting endorsement, of Hillary Clinton. I criticize his stated position that he will once again support whoever the Democratic nominee is against Donald Trump. I frankly do not think someone like Joe Biden deserves Bernie's endorsement or anyone's support. Yet Bernie has said that if Biden is the nominee, Bernie will support him. And that means that the $27 a month that I have contributed to the Sanders campaign might be spent in pursuit of electing someone I despise, like Joe Biden or, Lord forbid, Kamala Harris. Now, a lot of what I've put forth against Tulsi has been nitpicky, okay? I admit that. Because the truth is, she's not that horrible of a candidate. She's right more than she's wrong. She has strong stances and appears to me to have a real set of principles guiding her actions, at least most of the time. But, my God, she is not the perfect fucking candidate. She is not above criticism. And I feel like no one real is criticizing her in any substantive way. She's being criticized in the mainstream press, of course, but no one takes them seriously anymore, nor should they, because their agenda is as clear as crystal. And it's not a progressive agenda. It's a corporatist agenda. It's a Bill Clinton-style 90s Democrat agenda that went out of vogue 20 fucking years ago, yet still clings on to power like a turd that refuses to vacate your asshole no matter how much you shimmy and shake and go, come on, turd, fall off my ass already. Corporatist Democrats are like the turd that won't stop clinging to America's ass. The sooner we drop it in the fucking bowl and flush it down, the better off we'll all be. Now, I think the fact that so much of the criticism of Tulsi has come from the mainstream press is why her fans are so super defensive of her to the point of feeling like they need to make believe that she is without issue. But that's just not true. And in pretending it's true, you're just not doing your job as a voter. You're not vetting your candidate. You're not holding their feet to the fire. You're not demanding that they be any better than they are. Now, Tulsi may not have the biggest fan base in this election, but with the exception of the wildly popular with his base Trump and the up-and-coming Yang, I don't think anyone enjoys the enthusiasm of support that Tulsi does. Even the Bernie fans, like myself, we're more reserved this election cycle because our hopes were already dashed and pissed on and burned and, thrown into the ocean with Osama bin Laden a long time ago. So we don't want to get too excited again, because we know that excitement is just the road to disappointment. But Tulsi's support is still pure and hopeful, and they still have the belief that, you know, if only people understood Tulsi the way they do, if only people saw the real Tulsi, that everyone would just be on the Tulsi fucking express right now. Americans everywhere would just join hands and sing fucking Kumbaya, Tulsi, Kumbaya Tulsi, I don't know. 5. Tulsi isn't as good as Bernie Sanders. She's basically just Bernie Sanders, but with less credibility. When Bernie says he's anti-war, he's got a long voting record to prove it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect record. He supported the wasteful F-35 program, and he even got a bit hawkish on Iran in 2011 or so. But he's voted for only 3 out of 19 military spending bills since he took office. There's a group called Peace Action. It's this big anti-war group. Bernie Sanders has voted with them 84% of the time. Tulsi Gabbard has only voted with them 51% of the time. So even though she's claiming to be the anti-war candidate, she's actually not the most anti-war candidate in the race. Since Tulsi Gabbard has been in Congress, she's voted against reducing spending on aircraft carriers and submarines and war. She was against closing Guantanamo Bay. She has been against reducing Pentagon spending. She was against an amendment to end combat operations in Iraq. She was against cutting nuclear missile program funding. And she's been against a bunch of measures to reduce military spending. So it's weird because she's the signature anti-war candidate, and yet she seems to want to keep our military budget really big and really bloated. And if you ask her about those votes, she says, well, I did it for the troops. I want to take care of the troops. Well, I can appreciate that because she was a troop. But as the president of the United States, it's not her job to do what's best for the troops, at least not exclusively. It's her job to do what's best for the country as a whole.
All right, well, I wasn't really sure if I was going to include this fact or not, and I kind of decided not to, and now that I'm looking at the video as I'm editing it, I've kind of decided that I probably should mention that before Tulsi stopped taking defense contract money, around 2018 or so, she did accept about $115,000 from companies like Lockheed Martin and other defense contractors. Which maybe was part of her reasoning for never wanting to cut the military budget. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you to decide.
So any area where Tulsi Gabbard is really good, like the economic stuff, the healthcare stuff, all that stuff, she's just using the Bernie Sanders playbook. And that would make her the best candidate in the race if it weren't for just one little tiny fact that's kind of hard to overcome. Bernie Sanders is in the fucking race. Everything she says she believes in, as of a few years ago, Bernie Sanders has fought for and advocated for decades. For longer than I've been alive, Bernie Sanders has been fighting these fights. And he's fought and advocated for them before they were ever popular, before they were ever mainstream positions to take, before they were ever anything you could say and expect to win an election. In short, he planted the flags that she's hoisting. And in terms of credibility, he wipes the fucking floor with her. Now, I know there's a lot of anger in the Gabbard fan base right now because the DNC has pulled its old tricks again and figured out how to exclude Tulsi from the debates despite her making the fundraising goals. And they say, well, she's not polling well enough. The thing is, she's actually polling around 2%, which does qualify. In my mind, it isn't much, but whatever. If the DNC says that 2% qualifies, then let's let it qualify. But the DNC only approves of certain polls and not others, and she hasn't qualified in enough of their recognized polls. And it's honestly odd to think that Tulsi only polls at 2%, given the insane amount of support one sees for her online. But I guess that just shows you what a difference enthusiasm can make. Now, I think it's bullshit that she was excluded from the debates. In fact, I donated to her beforehand to help her secure her spot. I only gave $1, but I still did it. So don't think I hate Tulsi or I have it out for her or I'm trying to fucking silence her voice or any of that stupid shit. But if you really want to know what I think, and if you're still watching at this point, it's pretty clear that you do, I think Tulsi should drop out and start campaigning for Bernie Sanders. You know, I think that she should start setting herself up for a run in 2024 if Trump wins re-election, or 2028, or 2032, or whenever. You know, because I think Tulsi's a good candidate. I really do. I know you guys think that I'm out here to fucking shit talk Tulsi and hate on Tulsi. I'm not. I just don't think she's ready. And I just don't think she's the best option. And I think that she would be much better served, and progressive politics would be much better served at this point if she dropped out and started campaigning for Bernie Sanders. That's just where I'm at. You're free to disagree. You're free to hate every word I've said here today. Obviously, you already know that. You don't need me to tell you that. But look, I like Tulsi. I always have liked Tulsi. What I don't like is the dogmatic cocoon that's formed around Tulsi that says that Tulsi is perfect and that any criticism of Tulsi must come from a shill or a hack, and there's no legitimate reason to have grievance with any of Tulsi's positions. You know, that's not what I'm saying, and I'm not saying that we have to hold shit that she said 10 years ago against her. I'm not saying any of that. I'm not saying it. I know you think I'm saying it, but I'm not saying it. Please try to see the truth. I don't know why I try to reason with you, but, you know, you do what you do, Internet. You do what you do. I'm the Amazing Atheist. Peace the fuck out. Have a good one.